Temitope Olugbile is a research analyst with Financial Derivatives Company, and she's live to us to give us some commodities update and try to continue that conversation around the cocoa production commodities corridor. Let's get her through from our studios at the Stock Exchange in downtown Lagos. Temitope, good morning. Let's get this story straight on with you. Inflation is the big story. We couldn't get that yesterday. The statistics office says it's going to be out at 11 o'clock. So let's keep that somehow. Let's keep it at somewhere. But let's talk about the oil, which is the big story. Yesterday was quite brutal, and it looks like this morning oil prices not recovering yet. This morning I still saw 58.89 on Bloomberg for Brent crude continuous forward trading.
Okay. Yeah, so like you said, the oil is a big story, and it remains a big story, and there's a lot happening in the oil market. So we have, on the one hand, there's still geopolitical tension. So we have that Iran's oil tanker was attacked, and we have the Saudi versus Iran, US versus Iran tensions. But one thing that we've noticed is that the geopolitical tensions don't seem to be doing much for oil prices. In terms of the main concern in the oil market now, it remains the demand, the oil demand growth. And when you have the IEA, revising its oil demand growth forecast every 2 months. The last time was in August, and now we have a fresh downward revision of its oil demand forecast. And they've removed 100,000 barrels from both the 2019 forecast and 2020, and now so we're at 1 million barrels per day for 2019, and then 1.2 million barrels per day for 2020. So we have that those the oil demand growth is the key concern. Geopolitical tensions, oil prices are not really reacting as they should or as they normally would to these tensions. And another thing that's happening in the oil market is the US-China partial trade agreement. It still remains ambiguous to is it on, is it off? We have on the side of the US, President Trump is insisting that there is some form of partial trade agreement, and China is not yet. China is telling us to keep our champagne glasses and still remain and not be too optimistic about this deal. But whatever the case is, I believe that if not for the oil demand concerns, a little easing of a trade war that has been on for over a year should make prices jump, and oil markets should be happy. At least we're seeing, no matter how small it is, that oil prices should have reacted and should have increased way more than it did to the likelihood of a trade truce. But we're seeing that the oil demand growth remains the key factor.
Yes, demand is a very major issue. We're not with this sluggish economic data out of China, and those are slumbering numbers from Germany, Brexit in the UK, then of course the US also trying to manage its own data, as it were. We'll get a lot more around that. But what else? Where are we with this land border closure? Give us about a minute or two what the market server is showing, where prices are. Now we have finality as to the fact that we're closing the land borders for both exports and imports. Everything got to come through the seaports.
Yeah, so where we are right now is, like you said, the update is that it started off being a temporary thing, but more and more it's looking like it's going to be on for the foreseeable future, and so we are for our September, and that brings us to the September inflation figures we're expecting in a few minutes time. We believe that our forecast is that the border closure effect will start to manifest in headline inflation. It will start to manifest in month-on-month inflation, and so we've already seen an uptick in commodity prices. We've already seen rise, increase to a one-year high of at least 24,000 naira per 50 kg. So we believe that it will start to manifest in inflation figures for a few months to come, and that is a downer at the moment.
Okay, so where are we with oil prices right now? Let's talk about that very quickly before we talk about soft commodities.
Okay, so oil prices, like I said, it's still stuck at like 58, 59. We have not done above $60 per barrel so far in October. If at all, it would have been intraday. So we're still stuck. It's still stuck between 58 to 59, and there's like I said before, apart from the demand concerns, there's really nothing more to oil prices. So oil prices will react just a little bit to any economic data that is released, and if an economic data release shows and validates concerns about oil demand growth, like say US releases an economic data that shows there's a slowdown in the US or in China, any data that fuels concerns about demand growth, we see that oil prices react to that. But apart from that, there's really nothing else driving it.
Okay, so jump into the commodities conversation outside oil into soft commodities. So where are we in terms of outlook for the global market? Talk about global demand, increasing demand for cocoa.
Okay, so for the soft commodities, for our day-to-day review, we saw that we have 2 grains and 2 reds, and now cocoa is one of the grains, and we saw that is showing an increase, day-to-day change, and that is good news for Nigeria's export earnings. And like you said, there should be some form of seasonal demand for chocolates, as we enter the Christmas seasons, and then fast forward again into the February season, we should see a slight increase in global demand for chocolates, and of course chocolate is gotten from cocoa, so that should see prices increase further. And I mean, Nigeria that's good news for Nigeria's export earnings.
Okay, thank you so much, Temitope Olugbile. Thank you so much. We'll check in with you guys on Thursday to find out how the inflation data paces out and what has been reactions and all of that across the consumers market. Thank you so much for coming from our studios at the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.